everyone, and welcome to Indie Business Radio for Monday, October 13th. I'm your host, Donna Maria, and you have arrived at the one place where we empower you to enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way. You know I'm in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and you also know that I am a big fan of blogging and what it can do for your business. So I want to tell you about an exciting event that's coming up. If you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, join me for Charlotte WordCamp, a one-day event on everything blogging and especially WordPress. Come and learn from some pros about how to set up a WordPress blog. You don't have to be an expert to come to this event. How to use your blog. From soup to nuts, we'll be covering it in roundtables, networking groups, great speakers, and more. I'm excited to be on one of the panel discussions as well. Join us. The date is November 15th from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. That's a Saturday, and it's at the Charlotte Observer offices right here in downtown Charlotte, North Carolina, so you all know where to go. This is where you register. cltwordcamp.wordpress.com. Let me say that again. cltwordcamp.wordpress.com. Today's media partner, I'm excited to say, is me and my husband. We have put together a new media training program designed especially for indie business owners. Today, you need more than quality products and services. You need the power of the media. And today, the media is you. And that's why our new program is called The Media is You. Join me for breakfast and a full day of media program to help you make the most of the latest Web 2.0 technologies to set your business apart, expand your brand, and increase sales. Visit themediaisyou.com to register and get details. And we're still setting up that website. So if you go there and everything's not in order, don't worry about that. Just click on the video and watch the overview and join us for The Media is You. Well, you know, study after study shows that all across America, women are starting businesses at an incredibly rapid clip. One of the many reasons for this is that we want to be more available to our children while they're young. My kids are 4 and 6, and this is one of the biggest reasons I started my business. Well, today's guest is just a powerhouse when it comes to not only running her own business from home, but inspiring and encouraging other women to do the same thing. She has made a business out of helping other women start businesses. Her name is Karen Steede-Terry, and she is the author of Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career, Launching a Flexible Business That Fits Your Life, Feeds Your Family, and Fuels Your Brain. Karen says that her book is the definitive companion for women who want to earn an independent living while enjoying everything family life has to offer. As an expert coach, Karen advises women on how they can use their existing professional skills to go out on their own and build a flexible business. We'll be taking your questions and comments. Do join us, 800-773-0355, or you can email your question to info@indiebusinessradio.com. Welcome to Indie Business Radio, Karen.
Thank you, Donna Maria. I appreciate your having me on, and it's great to be here.
Well, we are just going to dive right in and get your best tips that we can pull out of you in an hour, Karen. But before we do that, can you give us a little bit of your story? You're a mom, you're a wife. How did you start a business with kids at home? That's a tough thing to do. Give us just some nuggets of information about how you got started.
Well, thank you. I actually started my business before I had children. And the reason I did that is because I got married and I moved to a new city and I didn't have a job. And that can be a scary situation for most people actually to be in. And the city where I was living did not have, it was a smaller metropolitan area and it did not have a lot of opportunities in my field. So I ended up just decided to go out on my own and see what I could do for a little while. And I had some skills. I knew I had some marketable skills, and I got a couple of training certifications in my field, which is computer mapping and GPS, Global Positioning Systems. And I started advertising my services and telling people I could teach these classes and that I was certified to teach classes. And during that time, I worked as an independent software instructor and consultant. I was working, and after classes, I would have women approach me, and they'd say, you know, I'm looking for something to do that's flexible. I'm about to have children, or I already have kids, and what you do kind of fits the bill, and can you tell me how you got started? So that was kind of the genesis of helping other women and also for writing my book.
Now, Karen, how tell us a little bit about how it impacted your business, the fact that you actually started it before you had kids.
Well, in hindsight, I'm glad I did that because it's a tremendous amount of work to start a business. And everyone tells you that, but until you actually try to do it on your own, most people really can't fathom how much work it is. And it took me, I had training classes. Once I started marketing myself, I called everyone I knew. And I knew some people in the industry who knew me and knew I was credible. So I had training classes fairly quickly. But it took me, I don't know, between 6 months and 2 years to really build up a good clientele. And you never stop building a clientele. You're constantly doing that. But I would travel a lot and go to conferences and trade shows in my industry and market myself. And so I'm glad I didn't have to do all that when I had children because that would be very difficult. And then once I was established, then it was actually great because my business was kind of up and running, and I was in the perfect position to have children at that point because I had already done all the startup work.
And having said all that, Karen, I know you work with a lot of women who do have children and they're trying to get things started. So it is possible, right? And we're going to be talking about that today.
It is possible. I think in some cases it's more difficult to do the startup, but I started out in 1996, and the Internet wasn't as big of a factor as back then as it is today. And I think the Internet can kind of level the playing field for women who can't travel and do that hard work face-to-face.
I'm so glad you said that because a lot of the classes that you and other people offer can be done online.
That's true. That's a new trend in training to do the WebEx or Microsoft Live meeting classes.
Right. Well, we're going to be talking about that. I love that. So listen, your book is called Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career. So I want to hit on this word part-time. I talk with some people who say, I want something part-time. But if you want to have a business of your own, Karen, tell us what your thoughts are. Is that really possible? Meaning part-time, meaning, 20, 25 hours a week?
Well, that's a good question. There are different definitions for part-time. And 20, 25 hours a week, that's not always the definition that people use. Some of the women in my book, Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career, work a couple of weeks a month or maybe a few days a month. Some work for several months in a row doing project work, and then they have several months off. So part-time, you need to kind of look at it a different way and think of it in terms of not just 20 hours a week because it's not always that way. And a lot of the women who originally approached me wanting to know how I got started and how they could do what I do, they only saw the part where I just showed up and taught a class. And that's kind of an illusion because they didn't take into account what went on behind the scenes and everything that goes into keeping your business running and ordering the books for the class and booking it and getting the next class in the pipeline. And there's just so much more to it than that. So I think when you think about part-time, that was kind of an illusion. People thought, oh, you just teach a few classes a month, when there's really more to it than that. Excuse me. But now I'm at the point where my business is built up, and I can pick and choose the clients I want to work with and the people that I want to work with, which helps to make it part-time.
And so, Karen, let's clarify, too, what we're talking about here, too, is mainly people who can either teach classes or do something totally from home. They're not selling a product, although I would guess that for people who do sell a product, if they can find some sort of a class they can teach that's somehow related to that, it's a nice additional stream of income as an add-on for someone who would want to do something like that.
Yes, and excuse me, I'm not talking about just teaching. There are a lot of things that you can do from a home-based business, and a lot of the women in my book do a lot of different things. I've got a CPA in there, certified public accountant, and she teaches classes. I also have a marketing consultant in there and a project management professional, and they all work from home on a part-time basis. So right. Some of the work may be done at home, but when you teach a class, yes, you can do it over WebEx, but most of the time I'm live in front of an audience.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of my listeners, as you know, are cosmetics manufacturers. So I want to throw out an example of someone that I know that's kind of doing the products as well as offering classes. This is one of my members of the Indie Beauty Network, and she's been offering cosmetics and selling them to spas. And one of the things that she has recently started to do, Karen, is offer online classes for spa owners to help them learn some tips and techniques to make their products move faster in their sales area at their spa.
Oh, that's great.
And so I thought, you can be creative, and, you can start with what you have, is what I'm saying. And people want to learn things, right, Karen, and they need services. So most everybody has some kind of background where if they think hard enough, they can probably think of something that they can teach or help another person do that they can market. So, Karen, how did you decide how to match your talents with the kind of home-based business that's right for you? I talk with a lot of women, and they say, well, I can do a lot of things, and I do them well, but how do I figure out whether I can actually make money at it? How do I know whether this will work? What are some of the things that you did to answer those questions for yourself?
Well, that's a good question, too. I actually went to college and studied the topics that I teach, and it just happened to be that there were some certifications in my field with computer mapping that I attained, and those certifications gave me a lot of credibility and marketability. So I think, to answer your question, that women can do a lot of different things. I never thought I'd be in this position because after I was teaching, I was approached by women for a completely different reason, how to start your own business. So it kind of led to that, as your example did too. But I think women can research some things in their field that are in demand, current things that are in demand. Trends change and technology changes, and that's so important to keep current and find out what currently is in demand. And then a certification is a good way to build your credibility, and then you kind of go from there, and you see once you start your own business, you never know where you're going to be at the end of the path or during the path.
Right. That's so funny that you say that, because nothing could be more true, and I'm so glad you said it, too, because you're a perfect example. Let's just go back. When you first started teaching classes, was it anywhere on your radar screen that you would be the author of a book?
Well, that's an interesting question, and maybe not a fair question, because I was actually already an author. Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career is actually my second book, and my first book was a technical book that's in my field of computer mapping and GPS. And
when I asked that question, I meant an author of a book teaching other women how to, as your book is titled, be a full-time woman, part-time career.
No, I never had any inkling that I would do that, but because I was helping these women, I'd meet them for lunch after the class was over, and we'd chat for a while, and I put together a small page of notes for women on things I thought were important to do starting out, and then my one page of notes slowly grew into this large enough format to put into a book, so that's how I got there. So totally, I am sitting here, I'm getting chills on the back of my neck, because it all started with really you just taking what talents and gifts you had and putting them out there in a format that made some sense. And, the opportunities started to come, and they keep coming. I know you do other radio shows. You teach this class at universities. Plus, you also teach the classes, in the technical area that you're knowledgeable in. And I just want to encourage people, what you're saying is put your talents to good use in a small way and just watch the opportunities come as you're consistent and as you keep doing it. Well, that's right, and you never know where you're going to be, and you may start out small and think, how am I ever going to grow this? And one of the concerns I had when I was starting out is I didn't know how I was going to get into the big leagues. I was teaching mainly at state governments or small local county governments, that kind of thing, and I still do a lot of that. And you just have to be patient and realize that over time you'll meet people, and once the word spreads about what you do, and if you're good at it, people will refer you, and then you may end up, somewhere you never thought you'd be. Awesome point, and so great to mention that, over time, people find out about you, and certainly with the Internet and Web 2.0 technologies, that's just happening at such a rapid clip. We're going to have to go to our first break. I'm talking with Karen Steede-Terry, the author of Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career. And when we come back, Karen is going to tell us her best tips
for how to sell yourself. A lot of people struggle with that, me included from time to time. So we really want to cover that topic. Women have got to get out there. We need to sell ourselves in order to make our businesses work. And Karen's an expert at that. She's going to come back and tell us exactly how she does it. This is Indie Business Radio. Don't touch that mouse. We'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And GlobalTalkRadio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. GlobalTalkRadio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to Indie Business Radio. You know how I love getting together with other indie business owners, so I am excited to announce the next Indies in the City meeting. We are going to be hanging out in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina on Saturday, November 15th at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Panera Bread located at 7840 Alexander Promenade Place, right in Raleigh. I hope you'll join us for warm drinks, networking, and a brief media training presentation by yours truly. Bring your laptop and your video camera for that. As you know, I will have mine. And also bring some lipstick, because you know I'm going to take pictures and put up pictures of you on the Internet. So we all want to show up and learn a lot from each other, and also find out one thing that you can do to use Web 2.0 to promote your business. That's Indies in the City in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, Saturday, November 15th at the Panera Bread on Alexander Promenade Place in Raleigh. We are here with Karen Steede-Terry, author of Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career. She's joining us from her home office in Texas, and this segment is going to be all about helping you sell yourself. That's such an area of struggle for people, Karen, and a lot of times, especially for women. Tell me this to get started. Can people who are not naturally outgoing, not naturally chatty, but who may really be talented and have a really good business idea, is it a struggle for them to sell themselves, and how can you help them overcome the challenges associated with that, Karen?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I have a chapter in my book, Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career, an entire chapter, actually chapter 4, about how to sell yourself and your services. And I think women who are more introverted than extroverted, and some other people are a little bit apprehensive about having to do the sales part of the business. And that's an important part of the business, because once you set up your company and get a website, people don't automatically just break your door down trying to get you to give business to you. It doesn't work that way. You do have to sell yourself. And one of the things is that it can be scary starting out, but if you have a good script, like a sales script that you can practice before you actually pick up the phone and start making calls or go to a networking event or anything like that, that can be very helpful. You rehearse what you want to say and commit it to memory, and it gets easier with practice. Once you do it a few times, introduce yourself to people, and when they ask you what you do, you go ahead and talk about your pitch. You give them your pitch. Then it gets easier with practice. So it does get better, and then you get used to it. It's kind of like public speaking. The first time most people do it, they're really apprehensive about it. And then once you do it over and over, you don't even think about that part anymore. You're just there to give the audience the information. It's kind of the same thing.
So it's really important to have that script then. It sounds like it really all starts there.
Yes, it is. And you can use it on the phone or in person and rehearse it so it sounds natural, like you're not just reading something off. And you can vary it, and it's just let it be you, who you are.
So this is really like just swallow it, and get over it because you've got to do it.
You have to. If you want to be successful in business, you've got to sell yourself. And it doesn't mean aggressively selling yourself. There are some techniques in my book, again in Chapter 4, and one of the things that I did to sell myself was to, I used conferences and trade shows extensively. And what I did is I researched the ones that were relevant to my field, and I talked in your previous segment about getting certifications. I had 2 certifications, and I put them on my business card. And I would go to trade shows and conferences, and I would go to the exhibit area only. If you try to get a booth at one of these conferences, that's going to be very expensive. And most people starting out don't have that kind of money. So what I suggest is to go ahead and go to the conference, but get a vendor pass. And a vendor pass is usually free. You just have to ask for it. And they let you walk around in the vendor area where all the booths are. And you can go
into point. I love that tip. That's a really good one because you can show up, you can get business cards, you can collect all kinds of information from people that are basically your prospective customers.
That's right, and that's exactly how I did it. And I would walk into the booth and I would say, "Hi, I'm Karen Terry, and I'm a certified trainer, and I've never been to this show before. What are your impressions of it? Is it a good show for you?" And that would be a simple dialogue, way to open a conversation, a simple icebreaker. People talk to you, and then you exchange a card. You say, "Oh, well, you offer these services, and I offer certified training, and maybe there's a connection there. Maybe we could explore this further. If you ever have a need to offer XYZ services to your clients, I'm available." And I've walked out of shows before with a large stack of business cards, and those are all warm leads if you think about it. They're not cold calls. It's not someone you called out of the blue that you'd never talked to before that you that didn't know who you were. That's an interaction.
And you have like the perfect in to send them a message, an email message the next day, or pick up and give them a call the next week. It's perfect, and you can marry that with the internet, right? And you know, if you're a member of social networking groups or whatever where those people hang out, then you've got to lead in to connect with them or friend them at Facebook or whatever the case may be because you've met them personally.
Well, that's right, and you just hit on a key point, too, is to follow up. You have to follow up. Send them a letter, an email, call them, "Hey, I met you at the show, blah, blah, blah." And that marketing strategy works very well, but I think the Internet is also a strategic piece of the overall marketing picture. And in today's world, you simply must have an Internet presence, whether it be blog, as you mentioned, or a website, a presence on Facebook or MySpace, or a combination of all of those. But on top of that, don't underestimate FaceTime, meaning face-to-face client interaction, because that is just invaluable, and it's easy to hide behind your computer and send email. But one of the secrets of building a successful business is that people remember interactions with other people.
I so love that point, because what you're saying is that the Internet is hugely valuable. It's going to help your business, and there are lots of different options, but there's really no substitute every now and then for making sure that you're shaking hands. And you know, Karen, it's tough for women who are at home with kids. It is hard because these events, even if you can bring your children to a trade show, I've done it before, and thankfully only did it once. And I got to tell you, it is massively stressful. So, what you're saying is encouraging in the sense that, you know, if you can find one or two of these places to go every 6 months or so, that you can work those leads for the periods of time when you can't be out and about.
That's right. And find a babysitter for your kids for that particular day that you're going to the show if you have to, because you're right, it's a lot easier to go there without kids in tow, and then you have the ability to have undivided attention with the people you're speaking to. Yeah.
And, you know, let's talk about that for a second, Karen, because getting help is such a huge part of having a successful business. And one of the things I find is that even for a lot of women that I talk with that have, teens in their area that will babysit, or people at their church or whatever, that they can find a babysit for them, it's tough to do that when your kids are young, and a lot of times I find a lot of reluctance to do it. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Reluctance to hire a babysitter?
Well, reluctance to, if you think about it, let me describe what I'm saying. I work with a lot of women who are, hugely talented, but they left the traditional workforce so they didn't have to have babysitters. And so there's sort of this, if I go to this event and I get a babysitter to watch my children for a whole weekend so I can do this trade show, am I sort of short-circuiting, one of the main reasons why I came home, so I didn't have to have a babysitter? I mean, can you help women kind of sort through those issues a little bit, because you've done it?
Well, you have to be professional, and I think that whatever you have to do to convey the image of being professional, that's important. And yes, women are mothers too, but when you're in a business environment, you need to separate the two. And I think it's easier to work from home when you have a newborn or a baby that's not mobile yet, not walking.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, because then you can attend to the newborn. One of my case studies, Ann Kasunit, she's a marketing professional. She talks about how she had a newborn baby sleeping in the cradle at her feet while she was on the phone. And it's easier to do that kind of thing when you have a newborn. But I think once the kids get older, it's very difficult to balance working from home with also having the kids at home.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I can remember being so exhausted, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, nursing an infant and working at the same time. And 4 or 5 years later, I was like, gee, I wish I could be totally exhausted sitting at my computer working with someone nursing, because it is a whole different ballgame when they can run around and climb up the curtain. Very different situation. So we have to be flexible, and that's another good thing to remind people of. So selling yourself, we're talking about cold calls and making sure, as you said, the hugely important thing of following up. Karen, what has your experience been with professional prospects who find out that you work from home? Do you get any kind of strange questions or odd responses from people?
Well, to tell you the truth, I never mention it, and frankly, it never comes up.
All right.
I don't put my address on my business card. I only put my phone and fax numbers and my website address, and it just doesn't come up. I mean, I think when you're a freelancer, most people would expect you to work from home or have something like an executive suite. I've known several that have done that, but it just never comes up. It's not an issue.
Good. It's not even an issue, so if you're worried about it, we're going to skip right past that because it's not an issue. Very, very, very good response. I like that, because we need to have as few things as possible to stress over when we're doing this.
Let me clarify, it's not an issue for me. I've never had it come up. I think if you bring it up in conversation, then the other people might, take a strange glance, but I've never had that come up, and there's no reason to bring it up.
So don't bring it up. And if it does come up, yes, I do work from home. Tell me, how can I help you? What are your needs? Just move right past it.
There you go.
That's good. That's good. This is so great. So, I can just see and hopefully feel a lot of, collective female minds out there wrapping their hands around some of the things that you're describing and, stepping up their game, because, as you said, the professionalism is important, but it's still a challenge, when we've got to cook and clean and do the laundry. And I saw someone on Twitter today that asked a question, and the question was, I need birth control for my laundry.
Oh, that's fun.
That was a really good point. So, Karen, let's talk for a second. How do you juggle all this successfully? Reassure us. Tell us that you actually don't do it all.
Well, I think it's hard. When you work from home, there's so many other distractions. And you have to put yourself in a professional frame of mind, and it kind of goes back to your question about how do you work from home with the kids at home. I think you need at least a dedicated portion of a day, maybe an hour a day or, a couple hours a day to actually concentrate on returning phone calls so that you don't have other distractions or noises in the room. And I think that's really important. Now, I've been known to put in a load of laundry talking about laundry. I've put some in and done laundry while I'm working from home, but that's about the extent of what I'll do. I won't watch TV or do anything like that because you're there to work.
Right, and it is distracting. I've cooked meals while I work, and my husband will tell people at cocktail parties I have also burned them because I'm trying to do both things, and I get excited on a phone call, and the next thing I know, people are going, "What's burning?" I'm like, "Whoop, I forgot to turn that down." But anyway, so that's a really good way to look at it too. That sometimes you're going to end up just doing more than one thing at a time, but making sure that things are segmented out. Great tip. We're going to take our final break and come back and talk more with Karen Steede-Terry, author of Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career. This time, in this segment, Karen's going to be answering some questions about how to set prices. This is a difficult issue for a lot of people, but if you don't set a price, you won't make any money, so you got to do it. This is Indie Business Radio. I'm your host, Donna Maria. We'll be right back.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning their new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to Indie Business Radio. I'm here with full-time woman, part-time career author, Karen Steede-Terry. And during this final segment of our show today, we're going to be talking about how to set prices. We're going to be talking about money. But before we get to that, Karen, I wanted to follow up on the question that I had asked earlier about going to selling yourself and how important it is to show up in person at some of the trade shows and events. And how do you keep your budget down? How do you control your costs when you go to these events, Karen?
Well, like I said, one way is by not getting a booth, because that's extremely expensive, and getting a vendor pass for free. And the other thing is that, which are usually free, if sometimes they may charge a small fee, but they're usually free. But the other thing that I do is I only go to local shows. I'm very fortunate because I live in Texas, and we have some of the larger cities in the country here, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth, and I can a lot of times just go to shows within my local area like that are within a driving distance. So I have low cost that way. And I'm a native Texan, so I know a lot of people, and I can usually stay with someone in those cities, so that cuts down on hotel too.
That's a good idea. So if you can find some place where you know someone, and also you can just make it a day trip, you don't have to spend a night in a hotel. You just pay a vendor pass, and you have an entire day's worth of sales leads when you finish.
There you go.
Excellent point. So let's talk now about what to do with all that money that we get it, when we get it from all those great prospects. And, of course, we have to budget it and everything, but we also have to set our prices. And this is such a huge issue because there's really, unless you're totally over or underpricing, there's really no wrong way to do it. What are some of your thoughts on setting prices for your services, Karen?
That is a real can of worms. But I discuss it in detail in my book, Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career, on pages 36 through 38. And one thing to keep in mind is that you are not going to be working the standard 40 hours a week, so your rates have to be higher to compensate for that. And the thing is that rates vary so widely across the country depending on what service you're providing and what area of the country you live in, because cost of living makes a big difference, because a rate that seems high in one part of the country where the cost of living is low, say Texas, is just about right in California or Chicago, et cetera, where the cost of living is higher. So I'm hesitant to get into that, but I think as kind of a starting point, depending on the service you're offering, that consultants can look at $75 an hour as a starting point and go up from there depending on your experience and your level of expertise. And again, what is the going rate for your service, skill, or product in your where you live?
Okay. So do you also suggest that people look around at competitive websites and see what they're charging?
Oh, yes, definitely do that. One of the best ways to get a rate, an idea of what a rate is for what you're doing, is to ask your competitors. And you can look at their websites. But in my field, it's a very open field where professionals share knowledge and information. So I know most of my competitors, and I can just ask them, what are you charging nowadays? And Cynthia Long, who's a project management professional in Chapter 3 in my book, says that as an individual, you can always beat the rates of a large corporation. And one other tip is to match your rate to the client's budget. Just ask them, what's your budget for the job? And 9 times out of 10, you will get the job. And another thing that I'd like to mention, if we have time, is that looking back over the past 12 years for me personally, I realized in hindsight that I was not charging enough for my services.
You know, I hear a lot of people say that. So what did you do when you discovered that? Did you just raise your prices a lot?
I did, and I didn't realize how specialized the training I was offering in computer mapping software actually is. I mean, there are a few other people who train on it, but I have many years of experience and knowledge in that field, and I was not charging enough. So that's interesting that you said other people have felt that way too.
Well, yeah, I have a question about that too, because you just said that you discovered it down the line, but is part of that reason maybe because you started your business and there weren't all these internet opportunities available for research purposes?
That's a good question. I think when you're starting out, you're just wanting to get some business, any business, so you price your fees and your rates lower than you would once you have built up your business and have some confidence. So I was just trying to get any client, any training, and a lot of times I would bid on a job lower than my competitors just to get the job. And then once I got my foot in the door, then I could renegotiate my rates once the contract was up. So I think a lot of that stemmed from that as well. What are other people charging, and can I charge a little less to be more competitive? But then as the years went on and my confidence grew and the word spread about your business and what you do, I think you should definitely raise your rates. And don't sell yourself short.
I like what you said about confidence growing, because that really is a part of it, right? And there's no substitute for time and experience in order to build that confidence. So you just kind of got to get out there and do it.
That's correct.
And you know what, Karen, do you think it's, again, there's no right way or wrong way, but your tips are so great. And do you think that it's as a general rule, it's better to start off with a little bit lower prices or a little bit higher prices? I mean, because you can always lower or higher them depending on what you need to do, but do you think that there's a benefit to starting off a little bit higher so that you can lower it rather than starting off too low and then having to explain why they're being raised?
Well, I think that's a good question. You can always raise or lower your fees. You're right. But I also think that how much you charge is kind of a function of how well known you are. And if you're just starting out and nobody knows who you are and you're brand new to an industry or a business, they may not know you. So to get a competitive advantage, you might have to start lower. So those are some things to keep in mind as well.
And that's a really good point. And I think I read a portion of your book where one of the women that you featured said that if you're getting into consulting, it's probably not a good idea to start doing that when you're just out of college anyway, because you probably don't have the experience to back up what you're saying you can do. Do you agree with that?
Yes, that was interesting that you brought that up. I was going to talk about that. That's Tina Brown in one of my case study chapters, and she's a consultant in a high-tech field. And I think there is some truth to that. I think you need to work for a little while for a company before you actually go out on your own and do consulting. It gives you some credibility to say, I worked for Dell or Cisco or 3M or whoever it was previously. So I think you need that in your arsenal before you go out on your own.
Now, Karen, how did you start getting the teaching gigs that you have at universities? And I'll just tell you how I discovered you. I can't remember exactly how, because it was from, one link to another on the Internet, and who knows what that digital trail looks like. It's all over the place. But I believe I found you because I stumbled upon a PDF flyer for training that you're doing at a college or university sometime soon. And
okay.
it wasn't your training, your professional technical training. It was helping women. It was like a class or a seminar to help women who want to start their own businesses at home.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty similar. Those are the kind of workshops that I put on. And like I said earlier, you never know where you're going to be, in a few years after you start your journey. And I think, like I said earlier, I was worried about how do I get into the big leagues. But once people go to your classes, the word spreads. And people, if you're good at what you do, people will refer you. Mm-hmm. And that's another secret of building your business. You get a lot of referrals at some point where your referrals outweigh your networking and your cold calls and all the things that you have to do when you start out. And so I probably just got a referral, someone at a university, or someone told someone at a university about me or something like that.
And how wonderful is that, too? I mean, if you weren't on Indie Business Radio right now, you would probably be on somebody else's radio show, which is great. But how cool is it that I was not looking for a radio guest when I stumbled upon you, but it's so wonderful just to point out that just having that PDF flyer, I think it was only one page, somehow led me to you. I don't even think your website address was on the page. I think I just Googled your name and discovered you. But again, how great is it that you're going to actually do something in person, but somebody on the Internet found out about it. I can't come to the training. I think it's actually in Texas, but I certainly found you and am able to tell a lot of other people about the great work that you're doing as well. So that's just an example of how the Internet combines with the in-person work that someone's doing to expand their network.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You're very flattering, and I appreciate that. But I'm very glad that you found me and that I'm on your radio today. I hope I can help your listeners.
Well, it certainly is helpful to me, and I know my audience. It's women that want to do what you're doing. So, believe me, it is invaluable to have the experience of someone that's actually done it before. And I want to ask another quick question about pricing too, because when you are a freelancer and you're working from home, even if the client doesn't know that, do they somehow expect that because you are flying solo in your business that your rates will be lower even if you have experience? Because, for example, they may be used to getting quotes for your services from such and such a corporation with 50 employees and a corporate office downtown that has a lot of overhead. Have you experienced that as an issue, and how have you handled it if it's come up?
Well, again, it depends on the task. I think, and I discussed this in my book, but I think that some professions, the starting wage is a little bit lower than others. And before I said $75 an hour for consulting, but some writers, for example, might start at $50 an hour, so it may be a little bit lower, again, depending on the profession and the skill set that you have. But I think that you can always beat a corporation because you're right. They're going to have the overhead and the administrative costs and all those other things that an individual won't have. So you might, price it a little bit lower to get your foot in the door, like I said, and then go up the next time they they ask you for a project. I've done that a lot with my training, and just gradually kind of raise it over time so that it's not noticeable.
Well, and they're raising their prices too. So if they're a business, they understand how that works. Karen, what do you recommend for people who are looking at some certification training that they can take that they think might help them offer better services? Does that also allow you to raise your prices when you get some certifications, or even just your first certification? Does that help too?
Yes. I think you were asking earlier about how can women find their path and what skills, based on what skills they have, what would work for them. There are some exercises like that in my book, Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career. And I think certifications, that's one of the things that I strongly recommend is for women to research different certifications, whatever their field may be, their professional field. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of certifications that are out there. And once you get them, it raises your credibility, it raises your marketability. Certifications show that you have a certain proficiency level in any given profession, and usually they're recognized within that profession. Now, I may not know what some are outside my profession, like there are a lot in human resources and they may not have meaning to me, but in the HR field they certainly do. And they're out there. I met one lady at a seminar, and she was a certified window treatment specialist. And I had no idea that such a thing existed.
That's great. So, Karen, how old are your kids?
I have one daughter who's about to be 4.
Oh, so still really young. And so how does she react to Mommy having her own business? What are some of the conversations you have with her about entrepreneurship?
That's an interesting question. My I'm originally from Dallas, and my parents still live there, and I have some clients up there. So I take my daughter with me when I go teach at a client up in Dallas or Fort Worth, and then she gets to spend time with her grandparents. And I think she was, one day when she was younger than she is now, maybe 2 years old or younger, she was asking my mom, what does my mommy do? And my mom told her, your mommy helps other people. And so with my teaching and training, and when I got home that night, she said, Mommy, you help other people, that's what you do. So she knew, even from a little early age, she knew what I did.
Yeah, that's great. And I know, my son is 4, so my daughter is 6. So, I mean, we've been having these conversations ever since they could talk because, they were raised, nursing at my laptop.
There you go.
So they've always been in my office, which is, I do my best not to have them in here all the time, but certainly they do spend a considerable amount of time in here. And I have found that there's just one of the greatest things about having a home-based business as a woman is that you do get to expose your children to entrepreneurial options at a very young age. Have you found that you're excited about doing that?
I think it's unique, and I was going to comment, you're lucky to have that flexibility, and I think that a lot of women envy that flexibility, and that's what they're wanting to be doing something on their own so that they have the flexibility, even if their kids are at home or at a babysitter part of the day or whatever, they at least have flexibility to go to their kids' lunch at the school or do whatever it is they need to do. They have that flexibility. I think a lot of women would just do anything to have that. But I think that it's a unique situation when one parent is self-employed, especially, well, maybe not so much today, but I remember growing up in Dallas in the 80s. My father has his own engineering business, and he's been in business since 1973, so that's a long time now. And in about junior high school, the teacher asked all the students in the class if anyone's parent had their own business, and I was the only one in the room who raised my hand. Everyone else, their father or mother worked for a corporation.
Well, that's not going to be the case anymore.
No, it's astounding the number of businesses that have been started over the past decade, and women-owned businesses have grown more than any other.
Well, yeah, I think that's true, and I think another trend that we're seeing too, Karen, is men and women starting businesses of their own together, pooling their talents and gifts and being able to start something where they bring so many unique background experiences and educational background to the table that they can start something from home and figure out how to make it all work together.
Yes, that's so nice that we can do that today.
That is really exciting. And I want to mention, too, there is a great group on the Internet at Twitter Moms. Twitter Moms, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know what it is a website for moms who Twitter at twitter.com. But Twitter Moms has a variety of different groups that are available for moms to join and connect with other like-minded women. There's women in business. There's women who mother multiple children, women of just boys. I mean, these are some examples of, I think there's over 100 different groups that are very active at twittermoms.com. And we just launched one called Moms in Family Businesses. So for those of you who may be on TwitterMoms.com, that's a great place to connect with women who are working with their spouses, as I say, making love and money at the same time with your spouse. But I'm excited that you said that, because I think, with today's economy, Karen, and just other family, issues. I mean, rush hour traffic is nuts around the country, and it's nice to be able to make yourself a little bit more available to your family, especially while your kids are young. You enjoy doing that, I take it.
Not have that commute, yeah. And women who are self-employed, some women tell me that they've enjoyed spending time with their children because otherwise they would have missed that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Karen, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time together. I'd like for you to tell everyone what website is the best place to connect with you, buy your book, and learn more about your classes.
Oh, well, thank you. The book is Full-Time Woman, Part-Time Career, and it's available on Amazon.com, but I also have a 2-for-1 special going on my website, which is www.fulltimewoman.com.
All right. Well, we can all remember that because we are all a full-time woman. That's right. So go to fulltimewoman.com and get the 2-for-1 special that Karen's sharing about. You can probably also click through there, and if you're in the Texas area, wherever she's teaching these great classes to help women start businesses from home, you got to check it out there. You can also learn more about her at indiebusinessradio.com, where this show is archived. You can stream it or download it to your iPod or straight from your desktop. I hope you've enjoyed it. I am very excited. Karen, thank you so much for joining me today. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Very inspiring indeed. Next week, I will be back right here on Indie Business Radio with Gary Hall. He is the owner of a social networking platform, and he is going to tell us all about how to start our own social networks. This is a show you don't want to miss. Gary Hall next week, October 20th, right here on Indie Business Radio at 1 o'clock p.m. I will see you there. In the meantime, enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.